So if you could be here around 9, that would be great. Okay?
Well, listen here.
Hello, and welcome to 90 Day Fiancé. Okay. I'm Mr. O, and today, Ms. H and I will be discussing Season 7, Episode 8 of Happily Ever After. In this episode, Ed and Liz's fight goes in a very petty direction. Michael refuses to give an uncivil Angela his phone. Andrei's interview doesn't go as well as he had planned. Yara tells Gwen about her plans to go to Europe. Bilal seems pretty displeased with what the fertility doctor has to say. Jenny and Sumit vow to never try cowgirl again. And Kim's cow gift backfires. As always, we'll end with our Students of the Week, class dunces, and life lessons. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and subscribe. And if you also watch Love After Lockup, you should listen to our other channel, Love After Lockup MK, where we are covering the new season of Life After Lockup. All right, thanks for listening, stay safe, and enjoy.
Hello, Mr. O.
Hello, Miss H.
How are you today?
Not too bad. We got this, starting to get Halloween. October's halfway over, right?
I know.
And now I got this crunch where it's like, oh crap, the Halloween parties are next week, and I have to figure out costume stuff. I don't know. This is why I don't usually like doing the costume stuff. It's like it just sneaks up on me.
Oh goodness. Well, yeah. Get your hot glue gun out. It's about that time.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get started on things that probably need to get hot glued back together, and that's Michael's car. So let's talk about Michael and Angela. So Angela claims to have no more fight left in her, so she's going to go to the gym to work out her stress. She's changed her flight to leave later today, and as soon as she gets back, she plans on talking to her immigration lawyer to withdraw the visa papers. Angela is starting to feel guilty about the vandalism to Michael's car, but she's convinced that Michael is talking to other women on social media, so somehow that makes it all better. Angela tells her friend Renee that Michael was messaging her, complaining about her rolling up on him without any notice. Renee doesn't condone Angela's actions, and she actually understands why she did it because she saw the place she was emotionally. Angela thinks that Michael loves his social media and his car more than he loves her. Renee suggests that Angela meet with Michael one last time, but Angela doesn't think there's anything left to say. She does call Michael to meet up with Michael, and she is trying to look her best for him. Michael is upset that Angela vandalized his car. Angela is already fired up, yelling at the server to bring her 3 shots of vodka when she meets up with Michael. She is immediately up out of her seat, yelling about Instagram. Michael is frustrated because she just doesn't listen. He wants her to sit down so they can actually talk. But Angela gets in his face and says that she wants to see his phone. He says it's his property and he won't give it to her. But he tells us because he's afraid that she'll break it. Angela thinks he's protective of his phone because there's something to hide. Michael holds her purse so they can do some kind of quick trade-off, but Angela's not about that, and she doesn't get to see his phone before she walks out to supposedly catch her flight. All right, so do you think Michael was being unreasonable about not giving his phone, or do you think that he was trying to hide something?
No, I think, I didn't really think of it at the time, he is 100% right that there was a 50-50 chance that she was going to destroy his phone when she took it from him, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, that's legitimate. But B, no. If my partner's like, give me your phone, I need to see what's on it. I even if I'm completely innocent, I'm like, nope, that's not happening.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to come up with a different solution to that because I'm not doing that if you're treating me like this. You're not gonna see my phone.
Yeah.
And if everything was 100%, if I had absolutely nothing to hide and someone demanded my phone like that, it would be, no, that's not happening. Because it doesn't make any sense. It wouldn't solve the problem if she could look at his phone because she's like, I want to see everything. You know how long it takes to go through somebody's phone?
Yeah.
All of his social media accounts, all of his DMs, all of whatever. Is she going to look in his files, his hidden folders that he made for his porn? I don't know. What is she going to look for the phone? She's never going to be satisfied.
Right. Yeah. I mean, do you think she would have been somewhat satisfied if he offered to show her while she was looking over his shoulder?
No. I don't think she wanted to be satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
She wants to trap him. She wants to be mad at him. She wants to break up with him, and she wants to have a reason to do it. And like whatever it was, if it was, well, fine, I'll scroll through my DMs and you can look over my shoulder. She'd be like, "Nuh-uh, you're hiding something still. If you weren't hiding anything, you'd let me do it." Right? That wouldn't be good enough because she wasn't. The end goal of what she wanted wasn't the truth. It was a reason to give herself her moral high ground for however she sees it for leaving him because she doesn't want to do this anymore.
No, I don't think she wants to do it anymore either. And I think she would be more likely to want to do this if she didn't have a backup dude. But she has a backup dude. So, I mean, she doesn't care.
Yeah. And to bring up the backup dude, and she doesn't have an answer for that. Right? Yeah. When he brings, but it's also like how he wasn't wrong the whole time. And he was like, let's discuss this. And she's like, what is there to discuss? And if it's like, well, if you said, what is there to discuss? Then why are we here? Right. We're here to discuss this. We're not here for you to scream at me. We're not here for you to break my stuff. If you want to discuss it, if you want to hear from me, if you want to hear my side of the story, then you have to listen. And she doesn't listen.
Yeah. But it's hard for me to feel sorry for Michael because she has never not been this way.
That's true.
You know? And so it's like, if he's expecting all of a sudden his wife is this completely reasonable person that he can have a conversation and like, you know, come to some kind of compromise or agreement about something, that's not who he married.
No. And this is a situation he got himself into. Now,
sure.
The funny part was I thought that if anybody doesn't know Angela, it was freaking Renee.
Yeah, I know,
like,
right?
Well, you just have to sit down and have a civil conversation. You're going to feel bad if you don't sit down and have a civil conversation. It's like, what?
It's like, in what world?
Thinks that she can sit down and have a civil conversation about this right now. What do you, how can I, who've never met this woman, know her better than you, her smoking buddy? Like, come on.
Yeah. My goodness, yeah. And it was funny how she's like, I don't condone it, but I can understand it. It's like, I don't know about that.
It's also like she jumps to the most ridiculous conclusions. Like, it really stuck out to me when she said something like, well, he cares more about his car than he cares about me, because when I was breaking up his car, that's when he came outside. He didn't want to come outside when it was me. And it's one of those things that's like, I love my children more than anything. If they were randomly throwing rocks at a window, I'd be like, why are you breaking the window? And it doesn't mean I care about the window more than I care about them. It means you're being psychotic and breaking things. Like, stop it. Right?
Yeah.
And then later she like even starts the conversation by not saying like, I know you've been flirting with women, or I know you've been on dates, or I know you've been talking. No, she's just like, I feel like you've been doing that. And how are you going to negate her feelings? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, she feels that way because she's doing the same stuff, right? And, you know, if she's better than Michael, which she is in her own mind, that, you know, she is tempted to do these things, then he must be too, and that must mean he must be doing the same thing.
Yeah. I just am getting so tired of hearing her talk about how he hurt me and I was so hurt, and how are you going to laugh at someone's hurt? And it's like, he didn't do anything to hurt you.
No.
Like,
yeah.
And so,
I agree.
I can do that because he didn't actually hurt you. You're just playing the victim for nothing.
Yeah.
Because you won out because you have this other dude. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's basically it.
All right. So let's go to, let's start with Jenny and Sumit. So it's time to leave for Rishikesh. So Jenny and Sumit are packing up to go to the old house, the real world, and their problems. So she tells us that they tried the cowgirl helper from the Kama Sutra class, and Jenny got too excited and broke Sumit's stomach to the point where he spent the rest of the night in the bathroom, which I don't know how that happens. I don't know how that happens. I have personal experience and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Anyway. Now it's either cowboy now. So now it's just cowboy only from here on out. And the cowgirl can go back into the stable. So also they said like the doctor healed him. They called the doctor and they healed him by praying on it. I don't know. Then he makes a joke about how it being weight related since he's too skinny. And then anyway, it was awful. At the end, we hear of, And that's the end of Here We Hear of That, because on the drive home, Sumit almost immediately talks about like, hey, maybe when we go back, I can check on my parents and see how they're doing. So they obviously have not reached out to him, and he's trying to make sure that they don't cut ties. He thinks that he really has to keep like bugging them and trying, like he's trying to get in a fight club or something, because as soon as he starts, they'll choose Jenny over him. He'll think he chose Jenny over them. Like he could call them 20 days in a row, but if it doesn't call him on day 21, they're like, that's it. He chose Jenny over us. And then if they think that, then he'll never see them again. So he also feels like if he doesn't try, they'll start to hate Jenny. Of course, Jenny snickers at that, being like, they already hate me? So we're a little late on that. So the next scene, we see Jenny and Sumit looking around the department store, trying to get upgrades for their place. Because if mom does come back, they want to make sure it's up to her standards. So first they peek at washing machines, but then at kitchen pantries, so they can get all their crap off the counter in the kitchen. So again, it's all about impressing his mom if and when she ever decides to come back to their house. But Jenny is refusing to keep the house really any cleaner or better than she already does, which Sumit clearly does not think is sufficient. So he was hoping for a Superwoman Indian type wife that keeps his house perfectly. So eventually, Jenny does find something that will keep the house in a nicer state with a little less effort. A vacuum cleaner. Sumit does not like the idea of this. He says brooms are cheaper, and also if you use a broom, you'll work out and stay skinnier. But then it also comes up when she asks, well, how did your mom keep her floors clean? She had a maid that cleaned the floors. So I don't know where this Indian Superwoman is coming from. So even though Jenny feels like she's been sweeping nonstop since she's been in India. So basically for Sumit, any American-style housekeeping, as the way he calls it, is a non-starter. She needs to do everything the Indian way, just in case it's possible to win his parents back over. So he wonders how bad it's going to look if they get there and they have a vacuum cleaner and the floor is still dirty. So anyway, he's arguing with her, and the hole he's digging for himself just keeps getting worse and worse and worse because he's kind of just calling her a shit wife.
God.
So then they end up passing on the vacuum cleaner and just going and buying the cabinet. Okay, so I guess, where do you stand on this in terms? So is this one of those? This is the classic question we always have. So should Sumit just have to learn to deal with what he chose to marry, or should Jenny be making more of an effort to be more of an Indian type housewife?
I think there has to be some kind of compromise, right? Like, he does have to understand that maybe she's not going to be exactly what he thought about, but I don't know, like, I think that if he wants her to be cleaner, that he could also help him pitch in.
Yes. I mean, that was the part that was really off-putting. He was like, well, I want the floor to be swept. She's like, then you sweep it. And he's like, that's got to get carried away here. That's woman work. Like, you got to clean the floor. Come on.
I do agree with her. I feel like they're always sweeping the freaking floor. Doesn't it always seem that way?
It does. It really does. Like, every time they come in, it's like, the floor needs swept. And it's like, and they have like the worst brooms too. Like,
yeah. It looks like a bunch of tree branches like stuck together.
Yeah, like where's your nice like push broom, or even like a straw broom or something? Like where's my good American broom?
Right. It just kind of looks like a homemade broom. Like, I don't know how you made it exactly, but you just bundled a bunch of like stiff material together and you're like, this is my broom now.
Yeah, I mean it looks like the decoration we get that's like a witch's broom at Target, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, I feel like though this old storyline at the same time.
It's one of those things at this point, it's like, your mom told you weren't invited to her funeral. That's the last thing she said to you.
Right.
And you're just like, well, I have to keep trying to get her back. It's like, can we just like cool it for a second and maybe like think it's so crazy that he is trying to prevent things from happening that have already happened. Like the next one. Well, I don't want my parents to start to hate you. And Jenny's like,
they already do.
They already do. They have for quite a while.
Yeah, I don't really understand, like, where he's coming from with a lot of this. Like, it just seems like, Yeah, in his weirdo world, it's like somehow this will all go back. But, I can kind of see that if his mom is the type of person to like get mad, then think about it later. And so this isn't the first time she's done something like this. I can see how he still has hope.
But I don't know that we've seen that. I mean, we've seen her say other things, but this one was...
we haven't seen it, but I mean, like, if they have a history of, because I would say my mom's kind of like that, too. Like, she could, when she's mad, she can say some real nasty stuff. And then it's like, once she forgives you, like, however long that might be, it's like, everything is, like, back to normal again. And it's like, she never said those things. And so I can kind of see, like, if Sumit's mom has a history of being like that, he somehow is holding out this hope. But if she doesn't, then his hope is, like, completely unfounded and ridiculous at this point.
Yeah, I mean, and that definitely comes down to your upbringing and your family too, because my family is definitely like, nobody says anything they don't mean, because they're like, oh, if somebody said that to me, I'd never talk to them again. So don't say that, because they might never talk to you again. And like that's the kind of thing that my family, like, nobody would say anything. If you said you're not invited to my funeral, then you'd walk out and be like, I guess my mom hates me now. I'm moving on with my life. That would just be like, there would be no. And so we're all like not tiptoe against each other, but we make sure we know what we mean, because like if you tell somebody in my family, that's it, get out, they will leave and be gone. If you tell them to move out, they will assume that you were serious and will actually move out. And so it's weird to me to see this family that says, oh yeah, she told me she hates me, I'm dead to her, and I'm no longer her son, but I'm not sure she meant it. That's like,
right. That's actually interesting, because I don't think everyone in my family is like that. It's just my mom specifically. Like, she's, sure. Like I said, when I was younger, she has said some pretty nasty things that is just like, you can't really mean that. And then it's like, yeah, she didn't really mean it. She just said it because she was mad.
Yeah. And I know people do that. And that's just, again, very foreign to me.
Yeah, well, speaking of which, we have another couple where saying things you may or may not mean. We've got Ed and Liz. So Liz has just abandoned her phone and her ring as Ed was telling her to pack up her stuff and leave because, as you remember, Ed was jealous because of the old coworker who he was convinced was attracted to Liz. Ed goes home to wait for Liz as Liz is wandering around. Producers offer to give Liz a ride home, and she cries in the production van, saying that Ed is insecure and jealous. She thinks Ed is pushing her to hurt him and cheat on him, and she's just over all of it. She gets home, and Ed immediately tells her that she needs to go stay with her grandparents. He then accuses her of having a relationship with her coworker when they were broken up. As soon as Liz asks for proof of this so-called theory, Ed says that he's done talking about this, but then tells her he wants to marry her, but he can't. Liz thinks the idea of her inviting an ex to her engagement party is absurd, just like if Ed were to invite one of his many sugar babies that he had somehow met along the way when they were broken up to the party. Ed says he can't trust Liz and then asks if she's a lesbian, and Liz denies it. Liz then spills tea about Ed not coming to bed until 5 a.m. like all those other nights, and she says that she doesn't get to hang out with anyone because he won't let her. And then Ed tells her his job is to read people, and he thinks her friends are trash. Liz tells him he doesn't know anything, like how to kiss. So at that point, things get ugly and petty because they're both accusing each other of calling the other fat at some point. Ed claims he has never called her fat, but he says he's dropped positive hints.
That's calling her fat, dude.
Yeah, I know, right? Ed tells her to stop because she's drunk and they just need time apart. And until he gets all his questions answered, he doesn't want to marry her. Ed doesn't believe her when she says that there was nothing happening. Ed then tries to make himself a victim by saying that he's the one who lost his friends and family, and he can't have any girlfriends because Liz is so jealous. Liz then comes out to dispute Ed's claim. Ed is convinced that Liz is bi. Liz is confused where these accusations are coming from since she has been given a curfew and she has no time to do anything. Ed then gets mad that Liz walked home by herself in this dangerous neighborhood. He says he doesn't want anyone who is so reckless. Liz points out that Ed isn't that attractive and he should be thankful that she loves him. He calls her rude and then asks her where her ring is, and Liz tells him she threw it in a bush. Ed thinks that this is the worst possible thing she could have done. He calls her dumb, and he suggests that she could have pawned it to help her grandparents. He then says he's done with her. Liz says that he's insecure and she's innocent as she goes to bed. All right, in this argument, are you Team Ed or Team Liz?
I mean, marginally Team Liz, because not that she was good or I thought she had the positive sides of any arguments, but Ed was monstrous. Like, just awful, 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 awful.
Sure.
So by default, it's like by the lesser of two evils, it's Liz.
Okay, so what did you think was the worst thing Ed said?
Honestly, I think his obsession about her sexual orientation is gross and super homophobic and really off-putting to me. It does not matter, right? It does not matter if she's bi, if she has chosen you to be committed to. Doesn't matter, right?
Sure. Yeah. And I was going to say, wasn't Rose the first person wasn't she bi as well?
She might have been.
Yeah. So I feel like he has experience with this. So why does it matter?
I don't know. And just like the number of times he asks, "Are you a lesbian?" Like, and the way he says it is just like it's a bad thing. Like, if this is a downside of you I should have known about, right? And then, I mean, and that's even moved beyond that. The fact that he starts off with an accusation that he is like, "I know this is true, just admit it." And it's something that's not true.
Right.
Like, this woman coworker was not an ex. She did not hook up with her. And and so him just being, "I already know this happened, so you just have to admit it to me. Just do it. Just do it. Why are you being so mature? Just tell me this thing happened." It's like, what are you even talking about, man?
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, things got really petty, so I agree that Liz was not innocent in all this. I mean, you know.
Oh, yeah. I think once we got to your fat, your dick is small, we're just at petty bickering at that point.
You're a bad kisser. Yeah, all those things.
Yeah.
You're just like, all right, so this is where we're at. Yeah. But, I mean, Ed trying to justify his fat shaming by saying, "They're positive hits." I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I mean, I do agree with her. For him, at his size, to be going around and telling people, "Well, you know, I liked your skinny friend better." Like, you know, like she was skinnier, rude. So it was more like, "Oh no, no." Like, it's not. It's gross when it's coming from someone who's skinnier than you. It's like when someone that's fatter than you is telling you, "Yeah, you could lose a little weight." You're like, "Fuck you, dude."
Yeah, but I think this just goes to show you these two people should not be together.
Well, I mean, okay, so yes, Ed shouldn't be with anybody. Nobody deserves him. Like,
Kim does. From Kim and Usman. They both live in San Diego. It could happen. It could be a thing.
You know, he's not an international superstar, but we'll see. It's just because the other thing too is, I manage people. It's my job. I freaking hate it when people are like, "I'm an expert in this thing that you're clearly not an expert at, dude."
Yeah, he's an expert at reading people. It's like, no, I don't think you are.
You wouldn't have so many failed relationships, probably, would you?
No, or accusing people of things that didn't happen if you're so good at reading people. Yeah,
it's that weird confidence in, "I suspected this, therefore it must be true."
Yeah.
And that's what's how you become so controlling. That's how you become so jealous. If a thought entered my head, I'm such a smart, observant, person that's true. It must be true. It wouldn't have popped into my head if it wasn't true. So now it's on you to disprove that. And it's just like that. It's impossible. It's impossible to satisfy him. And that's where we're getting at, is no matter when this happened, and it happened other times before, obviously 8 other times, it's never going to be enough to satisfy him, because he's always going to have another suspicion that just pops into his head because he's insecure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
by the way,
ridiculous.
how much did that ring cost? Because I feel like he said it like a million times.
$13,000. I was like,
that
all right.
$13,000 ring I bought for you that cost $13,000 that you put in the bush. You put $13,000. Oh my God, he said it so many times.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not justifying it by any means. Like, obviously, you probably wouldn't do that if you were sober. I'd hope not, right? Like, throw something in a bush. But, I mean, stuff happens. I mean, people lose their shoes when they're drunk, you know? It just happens. So, it's just like, okay, give her a break. It's not, like, the most worst thing that she could have possibly done. Like, he just definitely made it worse than, I think, like, the intention and...
I'm going to put it this way. How many people have gotten in the car drunk and crashed that? Yeah. And that's way worse. That costs, A, more money, and B, is more dangerous. And come on, like, that's worse. That's not the stupidest thing she could have possibly done.
All right. I'm sure you could go out and get it. Like, why wasn't that
I'm sure you'll find, you totally find it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, just put tracking on her phone because she threw it right where she left her phone.
Right where she left her phone. Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a discussion to have drunk, and neither of them could let it go.
Right.
And so both of them said, this conversation's done. I'm not going to talk this anymore. And one more thing. Like, they both did that.
I'd be willing to bet that production got her back and, like, picked up her phone and the ring.
I bet they did. Yeah. I bet they did.
Yeah.
All right, so moving along, we have Yara and Jovi. So Jovi is getting ready in the dark because it's time for him to leave for work, which means he'll be on site for the next few weeks. So Jovi asks Yara one more time to please wait for him to get back before she goes to Europe, but she's still stubborn about it, and she wants to go as soon as she gets her green card. So he tells us that normally he would have no problem with her going alone, but not with the war going on. So Yara wants to travel with Jovi, but also feels like she's letting everyone down by not being there as soon as possible. So eventually she does relent and says that she'll wait for him. He feels a lot better about the situation now, and then he leaves. So we jump ahead 2 weeks to see Mila and Yara meeting with Mrs. Gwen. So things are going better between them and Yara, and she's looking forward to doing, something with a friendly face. So they're painting signs to hang, and Yara is game, even though she doesn't get the American obsession with crafts and hanging word art on the wall. She says in Ukraine, you just, put those carpets on the wall. I don't know what she's talking about, but okay. So while they're crafting, Yara tells Gwen that she has her green card in hand and that they'll be traveling to Czechia once Jovi gets back. So Gwen is surprised that their trip to Europe will be so soon, and she gets it, but it also makes her very nervous. What if the Russians launch a bomb and it misses by 1,000 miles and hits Prague? I looked it up. Prague is 1,000 miles from Kyiv.
They should be worried about bigger things if they missed by that much.
Right. I feel like a lot worse things are going to be going on down if that happens. So Gwen knows that Yara needs to see her people. But when she asks about how long the trip is going to be, Yara kind of makes it sound like her plan is to live in Europe and just do like 3 visa runs a year, which is not really what Gwen wanted to hear. But then we go to the interview and she makes it sound like she just wants to be in Europe when Jovi is off for work and she doesn't want this living alone thing. And then we kind of leave it there. So, I mean, what do you think about Miss Gwen's concern? Do you think it's just a lack of knowledge of European geography that making her more nervous than she needs to be?
Probably. I mean, it's pretty common knowledge that Americans do not have the best sense of world geography, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
I think that's pretty common knowledge. And to be fair, it's like if you were to ask Europeans about specific states and their locations, they would probably be equally confused. And it's kind of like the same thing, It's like, well, we don't remember exactly.
It's similar with Americans and languages. Like, we're not exposed to that many languages on a daily basis, so we don't learn as many. But yes, I've definitely seen maps of joke maps of where Europeans think things are, and they have like the entire middle of the country between the coasts just as like Texas. Well,
Texas is a pretty large state. So. I think it's probably just a lack of knowledge of geography where things are. But I think also, it is scary if anyone thinks of, war, it's like, is there really a strict delineation of, like the war is going to stay contained in this area, and
but that's the thing. That's a kind of a misunderstanding of history and diplomacy is, it pretty much is, because if a bomb hit Czechia, we're invading Russia. Like it's like, that's not a thing that accidentally happens. If you're on the edge of border zones, like maybe, but this is, you have to be pretty close. And if like they're very strict about like anything leaving the designated war battle zone, because things get very hairy very quickly when that happens.
Yeah. I think the other thing to kind of keep in mind too is I feel like the borders are a little bit more evident and obvious when you're in Europe than you are here. Like, it's not always so, it's like, oh, you crossed a state border. Sometimes there's a sign. But if for some reason a state had to defend itself or like somehow close itself off from other states, that would be pretty near impossible.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure like any road they're going to put up everybody, because there was tons of refugees coming out of, and they're national borders. I mean, that's the thing too, is most Americans never see, at least on a regular basis, they don't see national borders. Right. And when we do travel, they're like me, they travel to England where you don't see a national border.
Right. Because you're contained on an island.
Yes. We go to, the Caribbean and things like that. We just tend to travel to islands. And even we don't fly to Cancun or something. Still, no national borders around.
Right.
And so you're right. It's not a state border. It's not like, oops, or shoot, are we in like, I've gotten a ticket in DC, and I've gotten a traffic, speeding ticket in DC, and I was like, I didn't know I was in DC.
Right.
Damn.
Right. Like it's very obvious and evident when you move to a different country, like in Europe. So, yeah. Right.
Yeah. And so, I don't know. It's just, and so I always thought the concern about her going with or without Jovi was always overblown for that same reason. Like she's not going she's not planning on going, as far as we've heard, going on somewhere that's actually dangerous.
No. And that's the other thing that I'm not quite sure of. And I mean, she probably doesn't know now either, because it sounds like everything is like kind of on the fly. But she keeps on saying that she wants to help her friends and family in Ukraine. So it's like, does that mean going there? Or is she just going to stay with her mom and try to help from there? So I don't know. It is kind of scary because you're just like, well, is your intention to go to Ukraine, or you just want to do some kind of effort to help? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because I get it. But yes, there's a huge difference between even the places like the war had left Kyiv for a while. But man, damn, it's bad again. Right? There's still things going on. So there's really not safe places, but that's within the borders. And so, yeah, if she was planning on going to Ukraine, which is not clear, I agree. That is a different story. Yeah. All right. So let's move on to Libby and Andrei. So Libby and Andrei's family are eating breakfast, getting ready for the visa interview. Andrei's dad, Stefan, is still there, and he's going to watch their daughter, Ellie. Andrei is nervous and stressed. Libby is testing Andrei, like, how many times a week do they have sex? Andrei answers none, but Libby says that they should lie so they at least have the same answer, so she thinks 2 sounds good. She continues to test his knowledge of her favorites. Andrei doesn't think that this is important. He thinks that they will read his body language to see if he's nervous. Andrei claims to be nervous, otherwise he would not be nervous laughing at a dumb fart joke Libby just made. Andrei is getting impatient and frustrated as Libby tries to help him tie a tie. And in the end, Andrei ends up with his tie being a little too comically short. After the interview, Libby and Andrei are very tense and Libby is upset. Andrei tells her not to be negative as she starts to cry. Andrei says that they were grilled and that they weren't approved. Libby thinks that it took a turn for the worse when Libby and Andrei didn't agree on what year they met. Andrei is blaming Libby for stumbling over questions and giggling. Libby cries and says she wants Ellie to grow up there and they'll never get to see her family, and Andrei says, great. He believes that her family will be happy to know how their interview went, and he's convinced someone from her family reported him to USCIS. Andrei tells her not to tell her family about what happened, and Libby tells him not to tell her what to do. And she can't think of why someone would try to sabotage them. Andrei says that if they have to pack their bags, that's what they have to do, but there's nothing that they can do now. So to be clear, their visa wasn't denied, it just wasn't approved. So do you really think that they got hung up on the fact that they didn't agree on the year, or do you think Andrei was right, they were reading body language?
I don't know. I don't know how this works.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that they were ever going to approve it on that day anyway. I think it was a formality, and they would kind of go back. Although we did see when Yara did her interview, it was that. So I would agree that it's probably the quote unquote answer that's wrong. And I think they were like, well, we had a little bit of an irregularity. We're going to see it. Because the thing is I know he's still here.
Yeah, right. Actually, I will say we haven't done a rumor roundup in a while, but they actually just had their second child.
Yes.
Yeah. So we know that they're all still here.
And so, I don't know if it was, I don't know if they read body language, because I think that's notoriously inaccurate and notoriously, not everybody reacts with the same body language all the time. Some people get really nervous telling me, because it does the thing, and it reminds me of, like, Jay Leno used to do the jaywalking things. You see all kinds of TikToks and stuff about this now. We just go up and ask a random stranger something really easy, like, who was the first president? And they're like, Lincoln? And you're like, no. And it's not because they're that dumb that they don't know Washington was the first president. Right. It's because you put a camera in their face and you ask them questions and they get nervous and they stammer and give you the wrong answer. Right. Mm-hmm. And this is a very nerve-wracking situation, and some people are going to respond to that differently. And I actually would feel like if you had such clear body language that you were like so great, wouldn't that seem rehearsed? Wouldn't that seem more fake if you weren't like super nervous about getting deported?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I don't really know. I just feel like it does suck that it's been drawn out because, I mean, Yara and Jovi, they just, they've only been on this show for a year. And granted, this is like off. So it's like, maybe she's been in the country for 2 years. But Andrei's been on the show for a long ass time. Like, how has he not got his green card yet?
Well, this is his green card renewal. This is because remember.
This is his. Is this for his citizenship?
No, this is for his 10-year card. Because he got a 2-year card. And now this is for his 10-year card. But we just saw that Yara just got her 10-year card because she got it after she was already here for 2 years. Yeah. So she's not going to have to do that because then she can just do her citizenship before the card expires.
Right. Yeah. Unfortunate.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, the thing was, Andrei was kind of a dick.
He was. Like, she starts crying, don't be negative. It's like, really?
I mean, yes and no. So I get where he was coming from. I think he kind of took it out on her, but like I get where she was coming from. She was like, well, we there's got to be something we can do, and he's like, no, there's literally nothing we can do. Right. All we can do is sit here and wait. There's nothing we can do. Yeah. And she's like, well, you're being negative, and he's like, that's what it is. Like, we can't do anything now. So all right. Well, going on, let's go to my last group. Kim possibly, we're shipping her with somebody else, but right now she's with Usman. So, despite the non-approval from last episode, they're still on their way to the Central Market to get this gift for Usman's mom. Again, because Usman has not yet told Kim what his mom said about, like, no, I'm not going to approve this. The gift this time is a cow, which is good, step up from a goat, and cows can bring in a lot of money. So Kim has a bit of a petting zoo moment, which apparently she's like, I've never touched a cow or a goat before, which means she's literally never been to a petting zoo, I guess. So eventually we get the owners of the cow to come by and ask what it is they need. So it's actually the owner's first time ever seeing a white person in real life, and he's impressed that she's getting this cow for Usman's mom. They pick one out, and then the haggling starts, and it's not much of haggling. They start at about $500 American and get it down to $450 or so. So Kim is ready for what she says is the most nerve-wracking experience of her life since fighting in Kuwait. So the next day, she's calmed down a little bit, and Usman is trying to psych her up to get that mama's blessing because which I feel like is unfair of him because he already knows she already promised him she would say no. So Kim says that she's never wanted anyone to like her as much as she wants his mom to like her, and then they're on her way. Before she enters, she puts on a headscarf, which doesn't actually cover all that much of her head. At first, she ends up pulling it up later, and hoping that this cowl will do most of the work of getting everybody to like her for her. So when they enter, the room is filled with Usman's mom, Fatimatu, his elder brother, Muhammad, and other assorted family members. Usman tells her that this is basically the council that will be the advisors to the mom, so they can make the decision, but the decision is going to be mom's alone. So they start to butter her up with a small present of a bracelet before all the interrogation starts. So everybody kind of goes around in a circle and has many, many reasons why this is an awful idea, and they all want the same thing that mom wants. Could you please just find a housewoman that is young enough to have babies? That's literally, those are the only two requirements, Usman. That's all we need. So Muhammad point blank tells him that this time around, he can't support the relationship. So Usman is trying to plead his case about Kim's goodness when there is a knock at the door for the cow delivery. And it does not go like Kim wanted it to go. She thought they would be impressed with her generosity, but instead they're insulted that she was trying to bribe them. So Kim keeps saying, at this point, they just talk in circles in a different language. And Kim goes around being like, can I speak? Can I speak? Can I speak? And nobody lets her. So seems like things are going downhill. So, man, I think this is the worst. This is the worst reception anyone's ever gotten from a family, right? And there's been some bad ones.
I don't know. I would argue Jenny and Sumit.
Okay, fair enough. Well. Fair enough.
But at the same time, they probably went better the first time when mom didn't realize that was actually that Jenny and Sumit were actually a couple. Because remember, we always hear the story about how Jenny was actually friends with Sumit's mom before she found out.
Right, because she was living in the attic and Sumit was sneaking upstairs to bang her. Right. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right. So, but it's not good. But I don't know. There's been weird speculations like that they're already got married, like they're trying to analyze his Instagram. And I don't know. People are definitely read way more into things than they should because I saw the picture that people thought they got married over and I'm just like, no, that could be a music video shoot, like just because there's white around doesn't mean that's a wedding.
Yeah. I mean, and especially because like white at a wedding is kind of a Western European thing. Mm-hmm. It's not like a universal glal thing that like, oh, white must be a wedding.
Yeah,
so
it was like kind of white with flowers and people were like, oh, you got married. Congratulations. It's like, he's not even in a picture with her. It's just him by himself.
He loves nothing. The only thing he loves, more than old American women is pictures of himself. So I'll give you that.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just don't know if it's going well for her. But at the same time, I just can't see them breaking up if mom says no. It just means that they can't be married.
But is she going to stick around for not being married?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think it depends on what their arrangement is.
Well, I mean, it seems like from at least a little bit from the previews that his arrangement is going to be like, listen, we can't be married, but you can stay with me and I'll marry somebody else and have babies with her.
Yeah. Which I could see that. Or I could see, him saying to her on the side, like, hey, just because we can't get married doesn't mean we have to break up. I'll work on my mom. We'll get an approval. Maybe not now, maybe not today. But in the future, you just got to put in time. I could see him saying that just to keep it going.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know what he's getting out of it. And it was just really funny because the people, all of them, did not give a flying fuck who Kim was or what she represented or how she was as a person. They were just like, no, this is dumb. You're not doing this.
Yeah.
And that's what she said. And I feel like she felt that because she kept saying, well, can I just speak for myself? And they're like, we don't care what you have to say.
No, we don't care what you have to say. I was actually impressed that the brother actually said Kimberly. Like, he pronounced it better than Usman did.
No, it wasn't Kimberly.
Yeah, I know, right?
Kimberly. Yeah, I got the R. Yeah.
Okay. Also, Kim is super ridiculous. Why is she saying this is harder than Desert Storm? It's like, really?
I don't know. Some people have pretty easy Desert Storms, I think.
Oh my gosh. But still, like, that is where your life could be threatened at some point.
In theory.
Physical, bodily. Oh, yeah, that's true. Was she even deployed or was she just like some admin person? But still.
Okay, but she would have been. Oh, no. Yeah, because at the time, I'm thinking about it. At the time, like they didn't, it was 1991. There was no women in infantry units or anything. Yeah. So she would have been support personnel anyway. I think she drove a truck or something, which could still be really scary. Like in Iraq, driving a truck was one of the most dangerous things you could be doing.
Oh,
like, that's
for sure. It's like, okay, something that could possibly cause you bodily harm more scary than what some lady thinks about your relationship.
Yeah, but it's her entire future and love. Again, her last chance at love. She'll never have another relationship again after this one.
Well, probably not if everyone sees this show.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay. All right. Let's end with Bilal and Shaeeda. So Bilal and Shaeeda have been called into the doctor's office, and Shaeeda is feeling nauseous and nervous because she's dreading bad news. Bilal isn't worried because Shaeeda's side of the family is very fertile. The doctor wants to go over the test results. Dr. Marable says that her egg reserve is low, and if they want to have a baby naturally, time is of the essence. Bilal asks if it's due to her age, duh Bilal, and the doctor goes over the likelihood of getting pregnant naturally after the age of 40, not very good. Shaeeda doesn't like the chances, and it sounds really low to her, because the doctor actually said about 5% chance.
But he said 5% chance every cycle.
Yeah.
I just feel like she doesn't listen.
Right. Well, neither of them are the best at listening to these doctors, apparently. Shaeeda feels like the results mean her fertility is compromised and she is worried that she may never have children. The doctor says he wouldn't wait more than 6 months if this is something that she really wants. He says that after 6 months, if conceiving naturally is unsuccessful, then he would suggest other options like freezing eggs. The doctor would never advocate for a baby when the couple isn't ready, but he thinks that they need to figure it out fast. Bilal is having a hard time seeing Shaeeda get emotional, and Shaeeda thinks that they need to start trying now, otherwise it's a deal breaker. All right, so we didn't really get too much of what Bilal kind of thought about this, but how do you think Bilal
I feel like his face was very expressive about what he was thinking about all this, which was like, God, no, this is not the news I wanted. You should not be saying this. Please shut up, doctor.
Well, that's not what I meant, right? Because Bilal has a way of like hearing what he wants to hear. So we didn't get to hear his debrief of what he thought the doctor said. So what do you think Bilal heard in this session?
I mean, I think the doctor did the thing that he was supposed to do this time. And I think it's going to be very hard for him to hear that you should wait. Right. Because he was very much like, oh, so are you saying this is age related? And the doctor was like, yes, the longer you wait, the less likely it is to happen. And his face is just like, and you just made the face where he just like wanted to shut up, you. That's not what you were supposed to say.
Well, yeah, because it shows that she was right this whole time and he's an idiot.
Exactly. I just did my quick probability calculator here. So if it's 5% every cycle, it's like a 33% chance for the year.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's still
Which is not
still not good.
Certainly not great. But it's not like, well, she hears that and like, she just, I mean, it's just her misunderstanding too. Cause Bilal hears what she wants to hear, but she also heard worst case. He said, hey, 5% chance every cycle. And she heard, oh, the doctor just said it was impossible.
Yeah.
He did not say that. He distinctly did not say that. Gave you a possibility chance. So
yeah, but I still think that's pretty low, like 33%. Like that's, I mean, most people are like comfortable with like 50%. At least that's the flip of a coin.
That is the flip of a coin.
Yeah.
But and it probably goes down. It goes down as you get older, right? So everyone is lower and lower. I didn't know. I went down the rabbit hole because I didn't know about this whole I knew that women are born with all the eggs they'll ever have, right?
Yes.
That's part of the thing. I did not. I just assumed it was like a couple hundred because you multiply one egg per month for however many months, and there you go. It was like I didn't know that there was. He was like, "Oh, you're born with like 2.5 million," and I was like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
And so I
Some
went
of
down
them
a whole
just die
rabbit hole.
off.
Well, apparently there's like 1,000 that come up to be nominated every month, and like your body picks one, and the rest of them just die.
Yeah.
And it's like weird. I don't know. It's just so I learned something with this show. If I did nothing, I learned that in this show.
Learned about eggs. Well, that's good.
I learned about eggs. Yes.
Yeah. Not that that matters to you now because you're not trying to have more children ever.
No, but I keep. Damn, I'm a dude though. We just keep making more and more and more. The worst.
Yeah. So I don't know. This is interesting. She's never talked about it, but how would she feel about adoption? I feel like she wouldn't be open to it.
I don't think she'd be open to it. Nope.
Yeah.
I just think she's, and you know how much these people bother me. The ones who are like, but it's not my child.
Yeah.
It's like, I just wanted to raise my child. And I think they're going to have to, I think your chances might be a little bit better. And it just sounds like they're going to have to go for actual fertility options, right?
Yeah.
Like for whatever it is.
I think they should have been doing that anyway, right?
Right.
Like
well,
try naturally and get some eggs harvested.
It is frustrating that Bilal was like, I think we're putting the cart before the horse. And the doctor's like, oh, no, you definitely already waited too long. Like, you have to get on this now. Right. Yeah. But I feel the doctor's, conflictedness, too, because he's like, these people are not on the same page and they shouldn't have babies.
Oh, yeah.
If you're not on the same page, you shouldn't have babies. But biologically, you got to shit or get off the pot. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I feel bad for Shaeeda because it's pretty clear right now. It's like when push comes to shove, Bilal doesn't want to have a kid.
He doesn't. Here we are. Not.
Here we are.
If you told him, he ideally will wait for later and see how it is. But if you told him it's now or never, then he'd say never. Yeah. Like without hesitation.
Yeah. Yeah. He was just trying to run out the clock.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that is everyone, right? We saw everyone this time. So out of this group, who was your student of the week?
Oh, this was hard. Most of them have just garbage. So I guess I'll go with the default of Yara. At least she did the thing to like help the family, right? And agree to go when Jovi comes back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Sure. To kind of sacrifice what she wanted for what was kind of viewed by everyone as the quote unquote better choice.
Yeah. I actually went with Michael. I felt like he was trying to be reasonable. And, it's just Angela cannot be reasoned with, but he kept trying. Yeah.
I mean, at this point, it's just like, I want to come off as the better person in this awful fight. And being reasonable is the way to do that.
That's easy with Angela.
It should be pretty easy. Yeah.
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 All right. Who was your dunce?
All right, so just because I felt like I said Ed a ton of times already, I'm actually going to go with Andrei because he was very aggressive and very much like, this is your fault. You're the one who did this. You hesitated. You gave him the wrong date. Like which was not helpful, especially when he acknowledged angrily, of course, that they couldn't do anything about it now.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I went with Ed. He's not my dunce as much as he is yours, but it's just like some of the stuff he said was just so nasty. It's like that stuff.
It really is.
Yeah, you can't take back. And so that was actually my life lesson. There are just some things that you can't take back. So you should not be saying things in an emotional place, and you should be thoughtful about what you say, especially if you're talking about things that are tangibly in the future. Like Ed says, like, get your stuff and leave. That's not something you can take back. Well, apparently you can 8 times, but I don't know. Yeah. I mean, and so mine was also related to my dunce. I went with, it's kind of for Andrei, and this is something that I have to work on myself, is you have to really try hard to not take out your frustrations on just whoever's closest to you. Because he wasn't mad at Libby. Yeah. Like, he was mad at the system, the situation, the things. And I tend to do that too. I tend to do it a little bit to my kids and to my partner, where I get mad and I don't like yell at them for what they did, but I angrily rant at them, which is not
good, and it's not helpful. And I try hard. That's my life lesson to myself as well. Stop angrily ranting at people who didn't do anything wrong.
All right. So I feel like progress is being made. So this episode was actually kind of interesting to me. So
so it does seem like we're moving to new places. Like Bilal and Shaeeda have to actually make a decision at this point. Right.
Yeah.
And it looks like we'll get some changes of scenery with Yara and Jovi and, yes, but things were moving. Agreed.
Yes, progress is being made. So we will be back same time next week with same group.
Yep.
Okay, so until then.
See everybody then.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.